call to order the Knox County Commissioner Rules Committee meeting for Tuesday, September 17th. We have Ms. Kim Ellis from the clerk's office. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Rawls.
Here.
Commissioner Barrett. Here. Commissioner Lee. Here. Commissioner Fox. Commissioner Frazier.
Present.
4 members present.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Awesome. Moving on to agenda item number 2, amendments and additions to the agenda. I do not have any amendments or additions at this time. Number 3, we'll move on approval of minutes from the previous meeting. Did everyone have a chance to take a look at those?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Durrett, second by Lee. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Welcome.
All right. Number 4, public forum. We did not have anyone sign up for public forum. Agenda item 5, discussion and consideration of any late additions. Do you all have anything you'd like to add? All right. Moving on to 6, which is our first item for discussion and consideration of eliminating committees and boards' annual summary reports. So I put this on here after just speaking with Drew and other commissioners. And I think Commissioner Jay can actually speak to this. This is something that was put into place just for accountability purposes, correct, Commissioner Jay?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. It was for 2 reasons. One, some accountability, but also there were several people. We were switching committees so often, and there were several people that were like, well, I just joined joint education. What have you done for the last, 4 or 6 years? So we don't, either I can read that presentation or I don't duplicate efforts. And so it's a way to kind of give people a catalog of information, but I don't think it's worked out that, I don't think it's served.
You don't
that
think it's
purpose.
been fully utilized?
Right, because I think everybody wants to come in and get their own experience in education versus just look at what did you do 2 years ago when plus things get so outdated, we didn't really take into consideration, for instance, if, and joint education, I'll use an example again, the state came in and did a whole presentation on TISA funding. Well, it was BEP funding.
BEP,
and
right.
a year and a half later they changed the formula, so that it's irrelevant.
Right.
But, for instance, we did, we would do a whole session on tips and pilots that hasn't changed, but I think everybody wants their own experience versus the rigor. So I think it was well-intended when it started, but it probably didn't serve the purpose and became a headache for everybody on July 31st.
Right. Mm-hmm. So those are reports.
Sometimes we do good and sometimes we don't.
So every year before August 1st, if you sit on a board or committee, someone on that board or committee has to submit an annual summary report. And like Commissioner Jay said, it would be there if you wanted to look at it and see what's going on in another board or committee, but it's not being utilized in that way. And so it kind of becomes a headache for Drew because she feels like she's hounding us and saying, I still don't have these, I still don't have a report for this board or committee, and then we're all going like, come on, I just filled out 6, you could at least do 1.
And when you're the only commissioner on several.
Yes.
Yeah. Plus, I think the minutes, most every committee, with a few exceptions, take pretty detailed minutes, and like this one approves the minutes, so that is kind of the record in the report, and that's really the only official one anyway, so it serves its purpose.
So I am proposing to omit it completely. So that's the decision to be made. That's what's on the table. So if you all agree,
I will second that.
All right. So motion to omit completely Rule 5, committees and boards, Section S, committee reports on page 17, with a second by Durrett. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, ayes have it. Great, thank you all. All right, moving on to number 7, discussion and consideration of altering the beer board rules RE language used to make a motion. So this is something that Commissioner Schoonmaker asked me to put on the agenda before his last and final day, and so I told him that I would bring it before the committee for consideration. So this is looking at Rule 5, Committees and Boards, Section K, Beer Board, pages 15 and 16, amending the language by adding 1 sentence, and it's noted with an underline. And it's basically on 7C, the attorney turns the meeting back over to the chairperson, and discussion is commenced by the board, followed with a motion to vote for civil penalties. This is what he suggested. The motion should state the guilt of innocence, state the guilt or innocence of serving beer to a minor along with the penalty imposed. And so he just wanted consideration of language that actually stated that the person is guilty of serving beer to a minor, because it is, you know, we are litigating in that arena. So, Director Booth, do you have any?
No, I think it's a good idea.
Okay. You do,
That's the precursor for the penalty, is that you're
right.
guilty, so I have no problem with that.
Okay, so we would actually include the language as written. Does anyone have any suggestions or amendments to this language? And it's the underlined sentence that would be added.
So the motion would be after they admit guilt or
Mhm.
whatever.
Motion to impose.
Motion to impose a X dollar fine, we'll say, for serving beer to a minor.
Yes, I guess.
Is that what the motion would be, I guess?
Probably include first offense, second offense.
First offense of serving, so maybe include the offense number?
Okay.
So will this be,
Because they're admitting guilt,
first
Right.
of
which I can work on some language for that and
It's
bring to
like
the beer board.
manager, but not the owner?
Well, you're
You know,
fine with
just how to
business
make the motion
relations.
with this suggested language. That somehow the motion should include guilt or innocence.
Well, I mean, they stated on record.
I mean, what is the purpose of, because if they're saying, I want to take the penalty or fine, why?
They've said it on
Commissioner
record.
Schoonmaker didn't really elaborate. He just said it was something that he had thought about for a long time, and he would ask that the body consider including the guilt of serving beer to a minor.
If you look at 99% of the cases, they come in and they say guilty. And I ask,
Right,
you know,
Yes.
how do you plead, guilty or, and generally they plead guilty. About the only time this would be an issue is if they're contesting that it happened. And we have some kind of evidentiary hearing. At the end of that, you need to make a finding, are they guilty or are they innocent? So, but in 90% of the cases, it probably doesn't matter, because on the record, they admitted that they've done it. So I don't
And the
know that it
sheriff
really-
has said it too.
Well, the sheriff is an accusation, but if they say we're guilty, then that's
Yeah.
an admission that they did it, and so finding them specifically to be guilty is kind of superfluous. But if you had a situation where sheriff said they did it, and they came in and said we didn't do it, and we had to have a hearing with witnesses, then it would be incumbent on you to, as part of the motion, say, we find you did it, here's the penalty.
Commissioner Jack?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's a little bit like the statement that Commissioner Schoonmaker asked to be read that reinforces that you, under penalty of perjury, it's 500. It doesn't change the law whether it is or isn't.
Right.
Whether you read that out or not, the law is still the law. Does it add more weight to it to have somebody say, oh, well, I'm going to tell the truth now that I heard that? Probably not. So it feels a little like, yeah, it feels a little unnecessary for the sake. It's like an HOA move or something that sort of reinforced that you didn't cut your grass a certain way.
And,
I don't know,
and
just
the other
It
little
doesn't change the
danger,
world.
the other little danger I can conceive of is when you put these rules on yourself like this. Let's say here's a situation where somebody comes in and they say, yeah, we did, we'll take the $1,000 fine, and then the motion is, well, we moved to find a $1,000 fine. If you put this in the law and you forget to make that finding that they're guilty, then maybe they look at that and go, well, maybe you can challenge that.
Yeah.
And say you didn't follow your own rules. So putting rules on yourselves unnecessarily, I think just it's more traps for you to follow. I think it's well intentioned. I don't know that it's necessary.
Okay. So do we want to make a motion to,
I make a motion that we deny.
one second?
Second.
All right. We have a motion by Lee, a second by Dirk. All those in favor to deny this language to the Bureau Board. Section K, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Excuse me. Now moving on to number 8. This is a discussion consideration of the reorganization meeting. It's Rule 6, miscellaneous, H, reorganization meeting, order procedure on page 21. I'm gonna turn this over to Jill, but we put this on the agenda. Sorry, guys. Just so we could talk through the reorganization parliamentary procedure. And then look at it and see if there's any language we want to clarify, or if it seems confusing, anything we want to clarify, or if we even want to consider changes to the process. So I'm going to turn it over to Jill, and she's going to walk us through it. And feel free to kind of motion and ask a question, or if you have a comment. This is a working type committee. So Jill, I'm going to turn it over to you.
So, after your reorganization, you first select your chair, your vice chair, and then after that the first resolution is to approve your standing committees. And there's an exhibit to that resolution that lists all your standing committees, which is this exhibit right here. So, you go through here, and this is where I think we're going to propose some language to number 3, because if you turn to page 22, this resolution about your standing committees is addressed in number 3. And the handout we had was to add this language that is underlined, which we might need some additional language to deal with how you want to vote when you have more people interested in serving than you have spots.
Right.
So that's what I think we're trying to address still
Yes.
yet on number 3. And so then after you select your standing committees and approve this resolution is when the special session will recess, and then they will convene each standing committee separately. And that's when the standing committees go through and elect their chair and vice chair. And so that's addressed in item number 4. And then once that is completed, then you will reconvene your full commission, and there's usually, depending on the year, more resolutions to appoint to other boards and committees. And those boards and committees are not standing committees, and they're all dealt with by a separate resolution. And then when we get through all of those, then the special session will adjourn. So does anybody have any questions about the process?
And we did have some suggestions just for 4A and 4B, and it's simply adding using the same parliamentary procedure in section H2, and then 4B adding language. Vice chair, from those nominees, the standing committee will elect a vice chair using the same parliamentary procedure in section H2. So those are the considerations for this committee to consider. If you have any questions or comments for Jill, she's the expert on this.
And if somebody has, I don't think number 3 is complete. I think that there's more that's needed as far as how, if you just want to, how you want to address when you have more commissioners interested in serving in their own spots, how you want that voted to occur.
Yeah, we wanted to hear from you all.
Is
because we
one
know
by
that was
one,
a-
or or
Yes.
drop out and have it?
My suggestion is that each commissioner will state the names that they would like to appear on the committee, and then a tally can be kept as far as how many how many votes each commissioner gets. Because otherwise, what was going to happen was the first people who were nominated were going to get voted in, and the other people who were nominated weren't going to even have the opportunity to be voted on. And so we have to circumvent that. And that's my suggestion to circumvent that, is that to start with whichever commissioner is leading the vote, and that commissioner states the 5 names that they vote on to serve in that capacity, and then you just keep going down the line, you just keep tallying. That to me seems the best way. But I'm open to other ways, that's what.
Sure. Did you look at section H2, which is the procedure? Because I think it's very similar to what you were suggesting.
So we actually did it a little bit different this year. Typically we don't have a sheet in front of us with people who are interested. Typically when I did a reorg 2 years ago, and Larson, you can speak to it for you, but we were all on Zoom, so it was a different kind of different. We weren't on Zoom? Okay.
One person was on Zoom.
Correct. That's right. And then we went to Zoom meetings later. It was more of the commissioners who are still on commission and we're on those particular, like, let's say, this one, for example, let's say this one had 8. The commissioner, the way we did it was any commissioner who's returning, do you wish to remain on this committee? And 9 times out of 10, if they've served 1 or 2 years, they'll give it up for somebody else to have a spot. And so that's kind of how we did it 2 years ago. I don't remember last year. And then I don't know about Larson. Can you speak to when? Do you remember?
Yeah, we
How y'all
sort
did
of start with the commissioners that were already there, or so the incumbent commissioners sort of got first pass on, do you want to stay here or leave? And again, most people, everybody's going to serve on every committee by the time they're done. It's
Right.
not, it's not an exclusive thing, but some people don't want to serve on some of the bigger ones that take a lot more time and effort, and so it was very natural just to say, like, you take that one, I'll take this one.
Right.
And because everybody can sit on, I'm not on this committee and I'm sitting here participating.
Right.
Anybody can show up. So this year it just got a little sideways. But usually, I do know in the past though, I have been part of reorganizations where, for instance, Commissioner Frazier and I were both wanted to be on a committee, and we both were passionate about being on that committee. It was Development Corp or something. I don't know, IDB or maybe it was me and you.
Yeah.
And it was sort of, okay, we're gonna take a vote, and I lost, and you ended up on the committee, and I was like, okay, well, whatever, I'll go on to the other committee, so I didn't.
And then you're on it the next year.
I mean, it didn't matter to me, but I was in a stubborn mood, and I think you were too, and it was fine, it was no big deal. So I just think, I think the rules we have fit well. I think we got ahead of ourselves because we were trying to, Terry and was doing a great job of trying to get everybody kind of on the same page ahead of time, and sometimes that's.
Right. I think Mike said, like, in the past, we've never had too many people on the committee. It's usually never enough on the committee. So with 5 new commissioners, that makes it, what next time is gonna be
3 or 4.
3 or 4, hopefully, not, but
Hopefully
whatever.
not.
But this was a big number to kind of change everything, so.
Well, and next year nothing will change. Like
Nothing
we'll have
will
any
change,
new
yeah.
people.
Right.
Here's the problem with the H2. H2 is for 1 slot. So it's easy to have the votes fall out so that there's going to be a person who has the least amount of votes. But when you have 5 slots that you're going for, or 3 slots, or however many slots, it's going to end up kind of like it did where everybody votes for themselves or something, right? So I think when you're going for more than 1 slot, we need to have a more efficient way of getting to the bottom line quickly. And that's why I would suggest you actually just state the 5 names or 4 names or 3 names that you prefer to sit on that particular committee, and then you can keep a column, you can keep track and see who ended up with the most votes or not.
I guess my question would be, and we ran into this one time. How often does this happen?
That's the first time.
So you guys have never seen this before.
I've been through 3 reorganizations with 1.
Well, we reorganized every year, but
3,
1, 2, 3, where it was an election, right?
Yeah. So
but my opinion would be not to create work because of one issue, one time. It's not traditionally something that's happened where 7 members have fought for spaces. So.
I did like that she had everybody's name down that was interested, because if you nominate somebody and you go, Kim, and Kim's like, I don't want it, so if you asked everybody, what would you like, then you at least know, well, these people want it. So if you do go to the, like Andy said, pick 5, who wants it, and we're not going, do you want it, do you want it, do you want it, then we're losing time.
And that's why we brought this to the table. Jill and I talked about, if you look at number 3, we could include this this language and add a little more to it, how we would decide if there were more members interested than there were seats available on a committee. And typically for the new commissioners, what we do is we'll have this discussion in Rules Committee, and then we'll capture everyone's thoughts and ideas, and then typically the chair will go back and work with legal to try to come up with a proposed amendment, and then we bring it back to the next Rules Committee to vote, and then we vote on it, and then if it passes, then it makes it to the agenda for commission, and we vote on it. We bring it to the full commission body, and it's voted on again there. So this isn't something we have to firmly decide today. We can work on, an amendment to this language. And Commissioner Fox, if you want to submit some language suggestions, we can work on that for the instance if there are more. And then we'll bring back some to the next one, some suggestions.
Most of the time in our previous rules, when we haven't either had a clear cut thing, we either say everybody come back with some specific language, or we go, Jill, give us some guidance. Because there's one person that lives in this world every day, and it's Jill, and she's much better at it than most of us combined. So.
Yes, and she's wonderful to help with this stuff. We love Jill. We love you too, and but we really love Jill. Just kidding. So, do we need a motion to? I don't think we need. We don't need a motion. So that's what we'll do is we will work with legal. We'll come up with some suggested language to address if there are more commissioners interested than there are seats. If there is that rare occasion, and then that's it. All right. So we are on to number 9, other business. Does anyone have anything else? Okay, let's look at scheduling our next meeting. I tentatively have Tuesday, January 21st, 2025.
Can we get off Tuesday?
Do you need to change?
Any other, like, I have a standing, entire 8-state region meeting at 3 o'clock every Tuesday.
Oh, yay. Yes,
Luckily,
absolutely.
Can we do it on
bad for me.
commission meeting day, like if our agenda review is at 3, can we do rules at 2?
Sure. I mean, I'm fine with that.
Before the
We
optional.
make it longer and longer.
Well, it's just consolidating on one day versus, no, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a history, so I can show.
Oh, wait a minute.
Sorry.
I said Tuesday, January 21st, so we don't need to have another meeting until January. So we can look at January calendar.
Just Tuesdays at 3, I have always a standing meeting.
So if you look at January, we have agenda review on the 20th, correct? Oh, and that's a holiday too. So we'll have meetings on Tuesdays of it.
Yeah, what about Thursday?
I could do Thursday. What do Thursdays look like for everyone else?
Andy.
Thursday.
I'm not.
No, I'm not.
Thursday.
I'm not
You just show up.
Damon House Thursdays, afternoons.
The Thursday.
I can make it work.
Do you have weekly commitments on Thursday?
Don't look at me, I'm not on the screen, guys.
Thursdays,
They,
3 o'clock.
wait a minute, hold on. This is in January?
Yeah.
Yeah, all spring. Well, what time were we proposing?
3?
3?
We try to put it the latter part of the day so if you need to, give lunch that day, take an hour at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, latter part of the day would be the hardest part for me.
Okay.
I'll be teaching next spring in AUT, so like
Awesome.
the evening starting at 4.
Okay.
And sometimes the audit committee meets on Thursday, because they are this week, Thursday morning.
Okay.
At 9, so,
But not in the afternoon.
not this one, but they had been previously, so. But they don't meet monthly, they may meet quarterly. Most of the meetings have been in the evening, but this Thursday is 9 a.m. So I don't know.
Do we want to go back to look at the Mondays before? Sure. let's see, on which Monday would you all prefer?
The 20th is a holiday.
It's a holiday, so we would wanna look at the 27th.
That's fine, that's the actual regular agenda that we,
Right.
What time are we starting on the 27th?
That'd be regular meeting, so your board will be at 4.
So we would do this at 3.
Retirement pensions at 3.
Oh.
Is anybody on retirement pension?
So, okay. Me too. That's for a long
2, I
time.
can't do it, I'll be in trial.
Okay. See, this is the hardest part of this meeting, isn't it? So when we have Monday as a holiday, does that mean that means we usually have our meeting on Tuesday? So that would be, we have agenda review at 3. We would be doing this at 2 on Tuesday the 21st, which is a Tuesday though.
Well, I mean, we have agenda review at 3, so it looks like I'll make us.
Okay.
It's all because of the.
So we would say Tuesday, January 21st. That's what we said originally.
At 2, what are we gonna do 2? We got to review it at 2.
2.
After waiting.
At 2.
So do this meeting at 2.
Is that fine with everyone?
Yeah, thank you
All
for
right.
that, Marcia.
21st at 2.
All right,
And
Tuesday,
not
January
availability
21st.
on Thursdays.
2025, okay, 3:26, we are adjourned.